sponsored by JMR Rentals, professional digital cinema and broadcast rentals in Brooklyn, New York. To find out more, visit their website, jmrny.com. Hello and welcome to No Rest for the Weekend, where we go behind the scenes and talk to the creators of independent entertainment. I'm Jason Godbey, and joining me via Zoom today, he is the director of the new documentary, Opeka, Mr. Cam Cowan. Welcome, Cam.
Jason, thanks very much. It's great to be talking with you.
It's great to talk to you. This is our second time meeting. We, of course, interviewed you briefly. The lovely Kayla interviewed you for the Soho International Film Festival.
Right.
And for those who haven't seen that, we want to talk more about Opeka and what's going on with that and what that movie's about. But first, I always like to talk to the filmmaker about who they are and how they got into this whole mess of show business and et cetera. So tell us a little bit about your background. Like, what is your origin story?
I practiced law. I went to law school. I went to graduate business school, then to law school, and practiced law for quite some time. When I started practicing law, just as an associate, I had committed to doing pro bono work and practicing in the social justice space. So I represented death row inmates in federal appeals when I was an associate. And I tried to keep going with that, connecting with social justice organizations, as well as, representing CARE as outside counsel and microfinance organizations trying to bring financing to the poorest countries. I did a lot of that. And I practiced for a while, but I started to enjoy it less. And I also felt that in what I was doing in the justice area, I really wasn't moving the dial in any way. It's the nature of the beast, but it wasn't something that I felt was, at that point in my life, would make a difference. And so I decided my heroes, personal heroes, are, the titans of the documentary film industry, Gibney and Moore and Portress and those people. And I've seen all their films and really admired them. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to create a documentary film production company, and I'm going to focus on justice issues and see if I can move the dial. And that's what happened. I studied filmmaking for a couple of years before we really launched the effort. And then we created Soho Productions, and I've met some great people during that whole time who were terrific supporters and mentors and ultimately collaborators. So it's been a really wonderful journey. Knowing what I know now, I might not have done it because it's a daunting thing to do, but on the whole, I've really enjoyed it, and I think we've done some good work.
With Opeka, this is a feature-length documentary, but is this your first one out of the gate, or is this like, how many is this into your filmography at this point?
The first film we did was Madagascar. That was a film that was inspired by a group of University of Virginia School of Law students. Who were part of a human rights study clinic, and they gave a presentation. I attended it. That's my former law school. And I was just shocked at what I had heard. And so that led me into a path of research and then ultimately a commitment to travel to Madagascar and film. And so we completed that film. It had a great festival run. We won about 20 awards in 2018, 2019. Got distribution. It's up on iTunes and Amazon Prime, Vudu, and some other streaming services. but that was the big commitment, to do that. And it was more than just learning how to do a documentary film. For me, I wanted to do everything. So like you, right, I wanted to learn how to operate the camera and do the sound and learn directorial techniques. I wanted to be able to edit as well. And so I knew that was going to be a time commitment, front-loaded for most of it, although I'm still doing a lot of learning on all those things. But as I say, I was lucky enough to connect in with some truly exceptional filmmakers who've really helped me and supported me.
Talk to me a little bit about, well, first of all, for those who didn't see for the Soho interview, just give me like the log line, give me the Hollywood log line for the film and tell us what it's about.
An Argentine priest commits to forego a promising career in playing professional football, soccer in Argentina when he was 16 years old, and instead decides to become a missionary and make vows of celibacy, make vows of poverty, and dedicate his life to living in one of the poorest countries on the planet, because his mission for finding justice in the world was greater than his love of the sport or his need to make money or have any of the sort of aggrandizing conditions of being a footballer. And it was actually that captured my attention. I'd heard about him and wanted to meet him. And when I visited, I did research before I visited him. When I visited him, I was actually looking for him to be an expert in Madagascar, our film. But the more I got to know him and then hearing that story, it was like, wait, what makes someone do that? Right? When I was 16 years old, right? Even today, I know what I would do, and it would not be what he did. And that's for most of us, and that's really a part of this story, is why someone does that. I mean, you almost couldn't have two more divergent, career paths, life paths when you're 16 years old. And he chose that and committed to it. And he's a big, powerful. He's still very athletic at 70 years old, still plays football, and it just doesn't fit the type of sort of a missionary humanitarian going to poorest country in the world. And I really wanted to get into that and explore that. And of course, the more I got to know him, the more I felt that this was a story that just really needed to be told, because there are many levels to it. One person can accomplish with making choices that involve great sacrifice. But there's also what he has accomplished, and that's demonstrating that extreme poverty can be eliminated. And he's done that. And what he's done is scalable and can be done anywhere on the planet.
What I'm getting here is maybe guy who's a lawyer who doesn't go into corporate law, but decides to go into social justice law, and then quits that to tell other people's stories of accomplishment about how they sacrificed. I'm thinking you felt a kinship with this guy in terms of like, you guys have a lot in common.
That's good. Yeah,
you weren't kicking soccer balls, but you could have been a corporate raider or something. You could.
There was a lot in common, although, as I say, I did spend time in corporate law, and so it was only later in my life that I decided to do it. He did it very early on, but we did share the passion for justice and a commitment for finding a way, and I think that was one of the reasons he agreed to let me do the film about him.
So you're filming this movie for the most part. Are you in Madagascar?
Yes.
Talk about a little bit of the challenges because Madagascar. It's not on ever. If you took a poll of 10 Americans, maybe one would know even where it is.
Absolutely right.
So, like, how the hell do you get there? How do you make a film there?
Yeah.
why did you go there in the first place? Like,
Yeah. No, this is a really big point. I'm glad you mentioned that, because when I heard that presentation by the University of Virginia School of Law students, I was stunned. I had no idea, right? And as you say, most of us don't. I think I had an idea, that Madagascar was a real country, but I think everybody over the age of 6 knows the word Madagascar because of the animated films, right? But so it's almost like, well, is that a fantasy, or maybe it's an island, but a tropical island, but it is a fantasy. There's that. There's also that we're the information we get about Madagascar is generally through environmentalists, like movies. There was an IMAX movie about the lemurs of Madagascar. And about how the species is becoming extinct, and the destruction of the rainforest of Madagascar. Madagascar is an extraordinary place because it was isolated for millennia, and like 90% of its vegetation, 90% of its animal life is found nowhere else on Earth. So it's extraordinary to go there and see these different kind of animals and different kind of plants and all of that. So I understand what the environmental focus, but the facts are that when I first learned about Madagascar and started doing my research, at a population of 25 million people, half of the population are children, half of the children are grossly malnourished, and 92% of the people live on less than $2 a day. So in our hemisphere, when particularly North Americans, we say, well, what's the poorest country in the world? We sort of like Haiti. Haiti has sort of horrific issues, particularly with natural disasters and all that. But when you look at just statistics, the situation in Madagascar is far worse. And so it really was, for me, again, it was sort of like, well, how did it get this way? And why do we not know about it? And so I did do a deep dive into that, and came to some conclusions, and wanted to communicate those in the film.
and the subject, the man himself, he's not exactly obscure. I think he's been nominated for Nobel Prizes and so forth.
Nobel Peace Prize, right?
But again, not a household word here in the States. So, I don't know how amenable was he in terms of like, hey, let me take a look at your work and what you're doing, and let me interview you about this stuff. Was he like, great, let's get the message out there, or was he reticent?
He was very reticent. Another excellent observation. He is relatively well known in Europe. He speaks several languages, I think 6, but not English well. And so in his fundraising, he's very outward focused for his fundraising. So he'll go to France and Italy and throughout Europe to raise money for the NGO, the humanitarian NGO that he created in Madagascar, that has helped over 500,000 people. And it's just extraordinary. And he's built, we'll talk more about it, what Akamoso is, his NGO, but it's extraordinary accomplishment. He's raised money in Europe. He hasn't raised money in the US. And one of the things I said to him, I got to know him very well over the course. I was there for about 3.5 years on and off. And, one of the things I said to him is, you spend all this time raising money in Europe, but the United States has the deepest pockets of any country, and this is a really fascinating story, and we can do a documentary with the hopes, the objective of getting people in North America to know about you and what you've done. And his reluctance is that while he's very powerful and outward and forceful kind of guy, he doesn't like to talk about himself. He'll talk till he's blue in the face and you're red in the ears about the children of Madagascar. Everything to him forever has always been about the children and saving the children. And the hope for the country is educating the children and feeding the children so that in successive generations, they will change the country. You know, that is his plan. That is his ultimate goal. His plan is to save lives, but ultimately that's the only way that there will be a change, right? That there will be a better Madagascar. Is these children he's educating who will come in and change and fight the corruption and you know, fight the lack of services and all of that. And so he's focused on that. But to raise money, I said, you know, let's do this. We'll try to make a documentary film, bring awareness. And in connection with that, Soho Productions, our production company, did start a charitable organization called madakids.org, where we raise money and send it all to Akamoso. We've been able to raise thousands because when you do the festivals, before the pandemic or in person, you could see, but even now, virtual festivals, people will say, wow, that's important. How can we help? And it's like, contribute $10, contribute $50, contribute $100, madakids.org, and 100% of those contributions will go to Father Pedro's NGO.
Fantastic. So, you know, this is not just a movie kind of thing. It's also part of a cause.
Yes.
The one thing I would, you know, one of my things is challenge as a filmmaker that I would think of also is there's this observer effect that takes place. And if you're a documentary filmmaker, when you go into a certain area, you're affecting that area just by observing it.
Yeah.
So was there anything that you sort of said to yourself or something that you did consciously where you're like, here I am, this white guy who's going to a foreign land, this American, how do I preserve this story? How do I preserve the story of this guy without getting in the way or without, and how do I sort of how did you like ingratiate yourself into the community and so forth to, you know, cause you're an alien there. I mean, you said it's an isolated community. So you're a sore thumb, I would imagine, in this place. How did that work for you?
Yeah, you know, I thought I was going to be a sore thumb. I was very careful. I had some very good instruction from the people in the Human Rights Clinic, you know, who are experts at traveling to foreign countries and not, you know, impacting daily lives or being sensitive to different cultures and things like that. But I was expecting a hostile environment. I really, I didn't know anyone from Madagascar at the time. Even in my selection of equipment, I thought this was going to be a run and gun sort of guerrilla documentary, going into areas and literally having to run away, you know, getting chased away and things like that. So I didn't know how it was all going to turn out. I didn't know what the production value of it, the quality of the film would be. But I knew there was a story that we wanted to tell. So we were going to try. I was lucky enough to meet a fellow, his name is Tefi, who was my translator. He became the fixer for us there. And over time, he became the assistant director because he was just so talented, multilingual, brilliant guy. And it was through him that he helped me negotiate all of that. And it wasn't very hard. The difficulty was in me listening, because the Malagasy people are lovely, lovely people. They're gentle, they're open and welcoming. You know, I've got these really great friends. I'm privileged, no question about it. I've got these very close friends who live and work in a stone quarry. And they're remarkable people. They're stronger than I am or ever could be, just because of what they do and what they have to do and what they accomplish and the attitude they bring to what they do, and they're just truly remarkable. And then there was something in the Malagasy culture where they treat each other like brothers and sisters. I always loved when we would go up to somebody we didn't know in Teffy, or one of the other crew members would go up and ask a question. It's like, oh, are you friends with that person? Did you know? Oh, no, never met her before, never met him before. But it's just this kinship that generally is a general proposition the Malagasy people have. So it was anything but a run and gun. It was, I brought back cinema cameras after that, and we did what we wanted to do. Now, on the heart of your question, we filmed on and off for 3.5 years in a quarry, in small villages, in towns. It was remarkable that we were just accepted. They have to work. So, for example, the people in the quarry, they can't stop and do anything. They just have to work. They have to, they make money by breaking stone. And I think we initially, when they first saw us, there was a curiosity. But when they saw that we were being accepted by the people we were working with, we were accepted by them. And I remember we would drive into the quarry, and everybody would just wave and go about their business. So it was really very rewarding from that standpoint.
That's kind of amazing. I mean, having that, because the last thing you want to do is alienate the people that you're trying to help, mm-hmm. or try, and let's face it, I mean, notoriously this has happened throughout, and I think it's just ignorance for the most part. Like a lot of they don't know that they're doing this. And learn a culture is not easy, especially if you don't speak the language.
Absolutely. As I say, I owe a great debt to Teffy and to the crew for helping me through that. So I'm going there, and the logistics are difficult, and we have time constraints, and I'm staying up to 2 and 3 every morning, and transferring the footage to a hard drive and a backup, and recharging batteries and reformatting SD cards and all that. So I'm just sort of like going like this, and Teffy was more and more is their expression, slower. You just slow down, because that is the culture and that's how people go, and which I love. I loved. I just wasn't used to it in the hyperactive American culture.
How big a crew did you have when you were over there? Were you a one-man band, or did you have other people with you?
When I first went over, I was a one-man band. I went back with a couple of the students to help me with logistics. I had Teffy, who isn't a technician, but through Teffy, I was able to meet, actually through film magic, I was able to meet some people who were great photographers, and so I was able to bring equipment over for them and get them organized around it. Several of them, including an audio guy, who was just terrific. So I ended up with 3 others. I always wanted to have at a minimum of 2 cameras going at one time, preferably 3. But I ended up with 3 guys and Teffy, who were just stalwart and absolutely dedicated to the projects. And we worked extremely well together.
Very cool. And so now you guys are doing the festival circuit. Obviously, you just played Soho, which is a great New York festival. Kind of, what do you see going forward? What are your hopes for the film? Are you looking for distribution? Where are you guys at right now in the process?
We're still in the festival circuit. I think we've got 6 this month, or November coming up, and a couple in December, and some have rolled over because of the decision not to go virtual and see what happens in the new year. We'll see what happens. But we've had a great festival run. We've got some big ones coming up, as I say, in November. including ones where distributors, like Soho, where distributors pay attention. So we would like distribution. We're hoping for distribution. I had a great distributor for Madagascar. I'm hoping that we could go back to him, but we're looking for the best possible platform now for this film, because the objective is to get the word out on this guy.
Fantastic. So if people want to learn more about the movie, more about you, where can they find you on the web?
Yeah, so the Opeka is opekafilm.com. And you can learn about the movie, get the trailer, get a press kit, and see what festivals we're on. We have the production company website is soheiproductions.com. Sohei is Sohei Productions, and then at Sohei Productions will get you to Instagram and Facebook. We have a Twitter account at Cam Cowan Film as well.
Thanks so much, Cam. Good luck with the film. I hope it goes great. More continued success, and keep us posted when you let us know. Send us press releases and everything like that. We'll
really appreciate
on the blog.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And that's all we got for you today. Thanks so much for taking this trip down the rabbit hole. For more of our content, including our movie reviews, visit our website, norestfortheweekendpodcast.com. Don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Once again, I'd like to thank my guest, Cam Cowan, and thanks to JMR Rentals for sponsoring this episode. For Behind the Rabbit Productions, I'm Jason Godbey. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.